Dear viewers, welcome to another video in the series of Minitab tutorials. In today's video, we will understand how to stack and unstack data for our data analysis purpose. Sometimes when we are doing analysis in Minitab, we may need data in different formats. We may need data for each factor in individual columns, or all these data to be stacked together in one column with the name of the factor in another column. So how to achieve this in Minitab is what we are going to understand in today's video. Let's get into the video. As I was explaining in the introduction, in today's video we will see how to stack data in different columns into one single column, and also we will see how to unstack data available in a single column into separate columns depending upon our nature of analysis that we need to do. First of all, where is the need for us to do this? In Minitab, at different places you need to enter data in different ways. For example, if I want to check normality of this particular data, if I want to do Anderson-Darling test, I need this data in separate columns: genset A, genset B, genset C. I can click on stats, I can go to basic stats, normality test, and in normality test I'll be able to select my variable, and then I'll be able to do this test, Anderson-Darling test, right? However, if I want to do the same test and then complete my non-parametric test, for example stats, non-parametric test, Moods median test, then the data need to be converted into response parameter, which is CO2 emission, in this case carbon dioxide emission, which is the data is collected for 3 different gensets in individual columns to be first stacked into one column, and then the name of the generator to be entered through another column. So for example, genset A data, B and C data to be stacked in one single column and the name of the genset to be in another column. So if we don't know how to do this in Minitab, we will take this data to Excel, then we will copy one below the other, make a one single column, bring it back. We do all this, but we don't have to do that. In Minitab, we have an option to stack these individual columns into one single column. So for that, we need to click on data, we need to click on stack. So here there are 3 options. I will explain each one of them with different examples. First, we will go with stack individual columns. So when I click on stack individual columns, the first information that I need to give is which are the columns which contain data which need to be stacked together into a one single column. And here I select C1, C2 and C3, which is the carbon dioxide emission in 3 different gensets. So now the stacked data to be saved where? To be saved in a new worksheet or to be saved in the existing worksheet? Let's assume I want it to be saved in the existing worksheet, column of current worksheet, and the name of the column I can give as C5. Okay, now after stacking this data, I also want the column headers based on which the stacking has happened, because I need to know up to how many data points I have the CO2 emission for genset A, beyond that CO2 emission for genset B, beyond that CO2 emission for genset C, generator A, B and C. So I want to store the subscript in column C6. So by storing the subscript in column C6, I'll be able to understand for which particular genset this data represents, or this data is from which particular genset. Now if I click OK, here I can have CO2 emission kilogram per gallon, and I can have genset name, and now I can go to stats, non-parametric test. I can select my Moods median test and I have my data the way I want. So CO2 emission will be my response parameter, genset name will be my factor, and then I can perform this test. So this is how you stack data available in different column to one single column to perform the required analysis. Now we will see the next option, which is stacking multiple columns in a single column or in multiple columns. What does it mean? So I have the pH value of chemical supplied by 5 suppliers, but anyway I want only to stack supplier 1 and 2 together and supplier 3 and 4 together. So now what I do, I click on data, stack. Now I select the second option, block of columns. So by selecting the second option, block of columns, I'll be able to stack blocks of columns in one go. I don't have to do it one by one. For example, if I want to stack column C1 and C2, supplier 1 and supplier 2, let us assume supplier 1 and supplier 2, they both belong to, let us say, a particular region or a particular location, and supplier 3 and 4 belong to a different location. So I want only to analyze this data not at a supplier level but at a location level. Then what I can do, I can stack supplier 1 and 2 together in a column and supplier 3 and 4 together in another column, right? So now what I say, new sheet or existing sheet, I want it to be in the existing sheet. So in existing sheet, I would want this data to be saved in column C8 and column C9. Now I click OK. So you will have supplier 1 and 2 together stacked in column C8 and supplier 3 and 4 together stacked in column 9. And I can call this as region 1 and I can call this as region 2, and now I can do the analysis that I am looking for. So one important condition that we need to understand is when we are stacking blocks, right, you need to have equal number of columns. So if I try to stack column C1, C2 in one column, C3, C4 and C5 also 3 columns. In the first block I have 2 columns, in the second block I am having 3 columns, and now if I hit OK, Minitab will not stack this for you because it expects the same number of columns in each block. That then only we will be able to stack. So this is how we will stack columns by block and then get the result in individual columns. Now we will move to the third option of stacking. Now we are not going to stack data based on column, but we are going to stack data based on rows. So here term A, B, C, D and E, these are 5 different term assessments conducted for participants Vinod and a different participant Kumar. So for each of these assessment they have scored some marks, but these marks at the time of capturing the data was captured in rows, not captured in column. But for analysis purpose, now I want this data to be stacked together in a single column. So now what I do, I click on data, stack, and now say row. Again a small window like this opens up. So now the first information that we need to give is rows to be stacked are in the following column. So if you see here, A, B, C, D and E, these are term assessment scores for different participants or students, but this data is in row, so now I want it to be stacked in a column. So I am selecting this and I am not selecting the last column because the last column represents the name of the candidate or name of the participant, so I am not selecting that information. Once I have this information selected, the next thing that I need to choose is the stacked data. Store the stacked data in, let's assume C8. I want the stacked data to be stored in C8, column C8. Okay. Do you want to store the row subscript? So what is row subscript? So here the row subscript is nothing but 1, 2. So if you also stack data in row 3, 4, that is row subscript. So do you want row subscript to be saved? Yes, I want row subscript to be saved in C9. Okay. Do you want the column subscript to be saved? Yes, I want the column subscript because during analysis I also can do term wise comparison. So I want the column subscript to be saved in C10. Right? So I want my row subscript to be saved. I want my column subscript also to be saved. And now I click OK. So now what you will have is, this is marks. This is roll number. Let's assume student's roll number. And this will be the term. Now I can have the data for even 100 students, but I can stack all of the 100 students data in one single column. Then I can do an analysis based on roll number, or I can do an analysis based on term and see what is the average marks. I can prepare graphs based on this. So all that is possible once the data gets stacked. So the first three options that we saw is how do I stack different columns into one single column? How do I stack blocks of columns into separate columns? And how do I stack available information in row but need to be stacked together in a column? So this is how do you stack data. Now in the last example, we will see how to do how to unstack data. So now I have the same example that I've explained some time back, which is name of genset in column C1. And if you see here, for the first 30 data point, you will have the genset name A, and for the next 30 data point, you will have genset name B, and for the next 30 data point, you will have genset name C. And column C2 totally have 90 data points. Now, I need to know how can I unstack this into three separate columns for some analysis purpose. The analysis purpose can be anything, but I don't want the information to be in one single column. I want it to be unstacked into three different columns. So what I do, I click on stat, I move to unstack columns, and in unstack column, the first information that I need to give is unstack the data in which column. Unstack the data in C2, which is my carbon dioxide emission, right? Unstack based on what? Unstack based on the information available in C1. So in C1, where you contain factor name or genset A, genset B, genset C, or generator A, generator B, generator C. So I select that as my parameter or my subscript based on which this unstacking need to happen. Okay. So this unstacked data need to be saved in unstacked data need to be saved in same worksheet after the column which is in use. Currently the column which is in use is C2. I want it to be saved from C3, C4, C5. Okay. Now, what is the name I need to give as a subscript? Name the columns containing the unstacked data. So my unstacked data have CO2 emission as the subscript. So same subscript can carry forward. Then what I can do, I can say okay. So now you will have CO2. So I can now say this is for genset A. Then I can say this is for genset B. And this is for genset C. And now you will see that the data are unstacked into 30 data points, each in separate column. Now you can take this data and do the analysis that you are looking for. Friends, thanks for your time. I hope this video was useful for you to understand the different ways of stacking data into columns and the way of unstacking data available in a single column into separate columns. Depending upon the kind of analysis that you do in Minitab, sometimes you may have to stack columns in different columns together into one single column, or you may have to unstack data available in one column into separate columns. So this will be useful for you and save a lot of time when you are doing Minitab analysis. Thanks for your time. For more videos on Minitab tools and techniques and graphical representation, kindly subscribe our channel. You will find more and more videos coming up in future. In the upcoming days, we have planned for even exercises on different types of hypothesis testing. We have also planned to make certain videos specific for members. So please consider taking up a membership with our channel for a very nominal fee, so that you will be able to access some in-depth statistical analysis with clear explanation, case studies, and examples. Thanks for your time. See you in another video.